joining us from Northern Ireland. He is a colleague who used to run a department of Portuguese as well as post-colonial studies at the Queen's University Belfast, and at the moment he is actually the Vice Director and Director of Research of the Centre for Cross-Border Studies in Ireland. So he brings to us what I think is also a very unique perspective, because he has experienced both academia and is also very much closely related to the world of policy, which is something that can be quite different.
Thank you. Yes, hello everybody. So I'd like to begin with a note of thanks and an apology. So the thanks go to Paul and his colleagues for inviting me to be here today, while the apology is extended to all of you present for the lack of scholarly rigour in what I'm about to present. So having been an academic in the not too distant past, as Paul said, I'm now the Deputy Director for the Centre for Cross-Border Studies, which is based in Armagh, Northern Ireland. And for my sins, including perhaps for leaving academia, I'm heavily involved in the analysis of policy related to Brexit and to the development of our own proposals for possible ways forward in terms of dealing with Brexit. One other thing that perhaps I should say from the outset: what I'm saying here now was written before the documents that were leaked. What I'm about to say now
Hello.
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 Yes, or wherever you want. Do you want to go further?
شيلي لي هالكرسي هذا ودي أني شو رأيك؟ خلاص أفوت وارجع عليه.
Brilliant, great piece of driving. So I was just saying that what I'm about to read here was written before the leak of documents from the Home Office 2 days ago to The Guardian in terms of immigration policy. So I will be talking about immigration, migration in this. I'm not going... There's a temptation for me to include some reference to that, but I resisted that temptation for a couple of reasons. A very basic reason. One is that I haven't actually read the document in any detail. I've got some colleagues of mine are looking at that document in detail, and they can perhaps give me some more informed interpretations. And the second one, which is actually an important one, is I'm not sure who leaked that document and for what reason did they leak that document, and what status does that policy document actually have. Have ministers, UK government ministers, actually signed up to that document? Is it really a reflection of where the UK government is going? Although I do think that at least the undercurrents in that policy document are perhaps a measure of where we're going in future post-Brexit immigration policy. I've thanked, I've apologised, and now I'm going to make a confession. Now, I have to confess that it was only really late in the day, looking at the programme, that I really took fully on board that this had been billed as a keynote lecture. Well, for a start, keynote lecture seems a bit out of place in this kind of really comfortable environment that we have. So at first I was actually feeling really proud of myself, because I'd actually finished writing at least 2 weeks before this date. It was only afterwards that I realised, oops, it's a keynote lecture, not just a paper, 15 minutes. So I had to quickly reassess the situation. So as someone once said, I may play all the right notes, but not necessarily in the right order coming forward in this keynote lecture. So, The focus of the Centre for Cross-Border Studies in terms of our proposals for Brexit and going forward with Brexit has been safeguarding the relations between the two jurisdictions on the island of Ireland and between the island of Ireland and Great Britain. This is in line with the Centre's core mission, which is to contribute to the increased social, economic and territorial cohesion of the island of Ireland through cross-border cooperation. So it could be said that our approach to Brexit and our engagements with policymakers on this subject of Brexit is driven by a degree of selfishness, the desire to protect what we have. I suppose the same could be said of the different nations and regions that make up the United Kingdom, different local authorities, different parts of our society, including business and even different sectors within business and even academic institutions. We're all looking at what we currently value and for ways to keep those things when we eventually emerge from the stormy waters provoked by the outcome of the referendum of June 2016. The question arises, however, as to whether we drift apart or come together as we cling to our sectoral or regional rafts held together by the patchworks or sticking plasters of the particular mitigations or opportunities we've each managed to find, and how many of these rafts will remain afloat in the new post-Brexit seas. Perhaps more importantly, what or who will we have jettisoned or have jettisoned on our behalf in an effort to be seaworthy, and who will make up the crew? Returning to what's more familiar territory for me, I like to now focus on the debate surrounding the implications of Brexit for the border between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland, and more specifically on who may be able to cross it, in what capacity and for what reasons. Therefore, as I discuss the border for the next few minutes, I'll be concentrating on the movement of people across it and not on the movement of goods, services or capital, as important as they are for the future of relations between the two jurisdictions on the island of Ireland and between the island of Ireland and Great Britain. Ireland and the UK's joint membership of the European Union, and therefore of its customs union and single market, has undoubtedly played a significant part in making the Irish border what it currently is, a largely invisible phenomenon. Although the end of the Troubles, as they're so called, in Northern Ireland also led to the dismantlement of the significant security presence along it. However, it's important to understand from the outset that the absence of permanent controls at the Irish border doesn't mean the movement of people across it is entirely unsupervised, even now. Buses, in particular, are liable to be boarded by Irish immigration officials when they cross the border from Northern Ireland, and passengers asked to present documentation proving their eligibility to be on the island of Ireland. Currently, eligibility to enter and work on the island of Ireland without specific visas is reserved for citizens from two sets of interrelated spaces. Those from the Common Travel Area on the one hand, and those from the European Economic Area and Switzerland on the other. They overlap as the Common Travel Area contains the United Kingdom and the Republic of Ireland, which are both members of the European Union. Therefore, its citizens are also EU citizens and within the European Economic Area. Although it should be noted that there are also territories within the Common Travel Area, such as the Isle of Man, that are not within the EU. The Channel Islands are also within the Common Travel Area, but they're actually not within the EU either. Membership of the EU and of the European Economic Area entails acceptance of the fundamental principles of the free movement of goods, capital, services and people, between its constituent member states. It also entails controlling entry into that space and denying it where necessary to goods, capital, services and people coming from elsewhere. Whereas it's currently those from outside the EU who are the more likely target of immigration checks at the Irish border, visions of the post-Brexit future are forcing us to confront who else we are willing to sacrifice, to jettison through exclusion in order to hang on to the notion of an open border between Northern Ireland and the Republic. In the run-up to the June 2016 referendum and in its aftermath, many of those arguing that the nature of the Irish border will remain unaltered in terms of the movement of people have pointed to the long-standing existence of the common travel area, which existed before the European Union, before the UK and Ireland's membership of the European Union. However, in our view in the Centre for Cross-Border Studies, not only does the common travel area lack real legislative standing, post-Brexit it will not prevent us from making decisions on who will enter this area that will determine the extent to which Northern Ireland is bordered within itself. To clarify what I mean, it's important to remind ourselves of two crucial aspects of the common travel area before highlighting some of the assumptions being made either explicitly or implicitly in arguments surrounding its post-Brexit future. Firstly, while the main features of the common travel area have been largely subsumed under Ireland and the UK's common membership of the EU, Brexit will remind us its scope only extends to UK and Irish citizens, as well as to citizens of the Isle of Man and the Channel Islands, although there's some minor differences there. Whereas currently all EU citizens, but not non-EU citizens, remember, may move freely between the UK and Ireland, including across the border between Northern Ireland and the Republic. Once the UK has left the EU, that automatic freedom may only be available to UK and Irish citizens. This could be said to reflect some of the origins of the common travel area in UK law, which portray a certain domestication of Ireland and the Irish that simultaneously underlines the alterity of those coming from elsewhere. Now this really is about to show the move that I've made. I used to quote poems, novels, now I'm quoting pieces of legislation. So two pieces of UK legislation illustrate this. The first is the 1949 Ireland Act, which states that, quote, "The Republic of Ireland is not a foreign country for the purposes of any law in force in any part of the United Kingdom," end of quote. The second is the 1981 British Nationality Act, which explicitly places Irish citizens outside the definition of alien, stating, quote, "Alien means a person who is neither a Commonwealth citizen, nor a British protected person, nor a citizen of the Republic of Ireland," end of quote. Domestication of the Irish in UK law that alienates those from elsewhere survived, even as both Ireland and the UK joined what would become the European Union, meaning there was a certain element of discrimination privileging Irish citizens above those from other EU member states. An example of a very belated attempt to rectify this discriminatory approach in terms of the UK government and UK law is the 2014 amendment to, now wait for it, the Immigration Control of Entry through Republic of Ireland Order 1972. So basically a law talking about who can come into the UK via the Republic of Ireland. So Section 4 of the original 1972 order exempted Irish citizens alone from certain requirements for leave to enter the UK. But the 2014 amendment, so remember that's just 3 years ago, so 2014. That 2014 amendment replaced that exemption for one that included EEA and Swiss nationals and their family members, in line with the EU principle of free movement of EU citizens. So here it's a law that its in original form in 1972 meant that the only people who could move freely from the Republic of Ireland into the UK were Irish citizens. And that law was only rectified in 2014, so it stood in law until 2014. So up until 2014, in law, anybody who was not Irish coming to the Republic of Ireland, so any other EU citizen, could be required to request entry to leave the UK, which goes against the fundamental principle of free movement. So, a reversal of this latter-day conversion to a fundamental principle of the EU will no doubt have to be considered following Brexit, putting an end to the current ability of non-Irish EU citizens to enter the UK through the Republic of Ireland, including via the border into Northern Ireland. The second crucial aspect of the Common Travel Area to be borne in mind is that its principal focus is on the movement of people across